It started on February 28, 2026. The United States and Israel launched strikes against Iran, and within hours, Tehran reached for its oldest threat: the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's Revolutionary Guard stormed 2 foreign container ships in the Strait of Hormuz, put rounds into a third, and dragged them to Iranian ports at gunpoint. The shipping world went silent. Not with outrage, with fear. 5 ships. That is all that crossed Hormuz in the next 24 hours. Before the war, 140 sailed through every single day. 20 million barrels of oil, the blood supply that keeps Asia alive, frozen in a war zone. But here is the part Tehran did not plan for. Washington did not try to reopen the strait. Washington looked at the wreckage and built a cage around Iran instead. It started on February 28, 2026. The United States and Israel launched strikes against Iran, and within hours, Tehran reached for its oldest threat: the Strait of Hormuz. A corridor so narrow that Iranian and Omani coastlines nearly touch across it, and the only exit from the Persian Gulf. Every tanker, every LNG carrier, every cargo vessel leaving the Gulf must pass through this single gate. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, went on state television and framed the closure as selective. His message to the world: the strait is not closed, it is closed only to enemies. Chinese tankers could pass, Muslim-flagged vessels could negotiate, everyone else blocked. For weeks that framing held. Ships slowed, insurance premiums exploded, but a trickle of vessels still moved under Iranian permission. Then April shattered the illusion. The US Navy fired on and seized the Iranian-flagged cargo ship Tuska near Hormuz. Iran screamed piracy. Iran screamed ceasefire violation. 3 days later, Iran's Revolutionary Guard answered. They captured the MSC Francesca and the Epaminondas, 2 container ships trying to exit the Gulf, and opened fire on a third that barely escaped. Armed soldiers on the decks, crews under guard, ships hauled to Iranian ports. That was the moment the strait died. Not because of mines or missiles, because every shipping company on Earth looked at Hormuz and decided the risk was no longer worth a single cargo. 140 ships a day became 5. But Iran had not yet realized the weapon it just fired was pointed at itself. Iran did not pretend this was an accident. Tehran put a price on the strait, openly, publicly, deliberately. Iran's first vice president, Mohammad Reza Aref, delivered the doctrine. The security of the Strait of Hormuz is not free. One cannot restrict Iran's oil exports while expecting free security for others. That is not a diplomatic statement. That is a ransom note delivered to the entire global economy. You sanction us, we suffocate your energy supply. You block our oil, we block everyone's oil. And the math behind that threat was not bluster, it was terrifying. Hormuz carries roughly 20 million barrels of oil per day, 20% of everything the world burns. 1/5 of all liquefied natural gas traded globally passes through this same choke point, and 84% of the crude flowing through Hormuz feeds one region: Asia. China, Japan, South Korea, India, Pakistan, all of them drink from the same straw, and Iran just crimped it. Brent crude surged past $106. During peak fighting in March, 119. 20,000 seafarers and 2,000 ships were stranded inside the Gulf with nowhere to go. Iran had built the perfect toll booth, and for 7 weeks, the world paid. Until Washington decided to build something bigger. On April 13th, the United States stopped talking and started hunting. The Navy sealed Iranian ports, not a partial restriction, not a diplomatic warning, a full naval blockade, and not just near Hormuz. Then, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood at the Pentagon podium and delivered one sentence that changed the architecture of this crisis. No one sails from the Strait of Hormuz to anywhere in the world, without the permission of the United States Navy. That is not diplomacy. That is a declaration of maritime ownership over 1/5 of the world's energy supply. General Dan Kane, the top US military officer, stood beside him and made it operational. Every nationality, every flag, any vessel heading to or from an Iranian port will be stopped. By April 24th, 34 ships had been turned around, and the US did not stop at the strait. 2 Iranian dark ships were seized in the Indo-Pacific, tankers that had left Iranian ports before the blockade, carrying crude bound for Chinese refineries, intercepted in the Bay of Bengal, thousands of nautical miles from Hormuz. Hegseth's response was ice cold. They thought they made it out just in time. They did not. Hormuz was no longer the battlefield. Hormuz was the bait. The real hunt had moved to every ocean lane Iran believed was still safe, and none of them were. But to understand how large that hunt had become, you need to see the machine Washington built to run it. This was not a patrol line. This was not a checkpoint at sea. What the United States assembled around Iran was a military nervous system designed to track, intercept, and strangle every maritime lifeline Tehran had left. 3 carrier strike groups now operate in the Middle East, the largest American naval concentration since 2004. Over 200 combat aircraft, 15,000 sailors and Marines, another 4,200 Marines arriving with the Boxer amphibious ready group before month's end. On the surface, guided missile destroyers running interdiction lanes from the Gulf of Oman to the Arabian Sea. Above, P-8 Poseidon surveillance aircraft feeding real-time tracking to every ship in the fleet. And embedded in the operation, boarding teams, Marines and Navy personnel trained to stop, board, search, and seize any vessel flagged for Iranian cargo. The Financial Times called it the largest US naval buildup in the Middle East in over 2 decades. But the scale was only half the story. The precision was the other half. Every Iranian-linked tanker that tried to slip through was being tracked, by satellite, by maritime intelligence platforms, by allied navies feeding data into the same network. Kepler, Marine Traffic, Lloyd's List Intelligence, Windward AI, all of them confirmed the same picture. Iran's shadow fleet was being hunted in real time. And the message to every captain carrying Iranian crude was simple. There is no route far enough. There is no flag dark enough. If your cargo touched an Iranian port, the US Navy will find you. And the first economies to feel what that machine was doing were not in the Middle East. If you live anywhere from Tokyo to Karachi, this crisis is not geopolitics. This is your electricity bill, your gas price, your factory staying open or shutting down. S&P Global slashed its 2026 global oil demand forecast by 700,000 barrels per day, entirely because of this war. Before the war, demand was expected to grow by 1.1 million barrels per day. After Hormuz collapsed, 400,000. That is not a correction. That is the global economy shrinking in real time because the fuel that feeds it has vanished. Asia's LNG imports in April plunged to their lowest level in nearly 6 years. Qatar, which supplied roughly 20% of the world's LNG, is now delivering almost nothing through Hormuz. China's LNG imports crashed to levels not seen since 2018. South Korea restarted 6 nuclear reactors to keep the grid alive. Japan is cutting production at gas-fired power plants. And then there is Pakistan. Pakistan gets nearly all of its LNG from Qatar. One supplier, one route, through Hormuz. Every cargo bound for Pakistan this month is stuck on the wrong side of a war zone. Pakistan's LNG imports in April may hit 0. Not reduced, not delayed, 0. Spot LNG prices in Asia jumped 143% in less than 8 weeks. The Atlantic Council warned this could spiral into a severe global oil shock. For Asia, it is not a warning anymore. It is the reality they are waking up to every morning. And here is the part no one in Tehran is willing to say out loud. Iran designed Hormuz as a weapon. Squeeze the strait, punish the West, force a bargain. That was the doctrine. That was the plan. And for 7 weeks, the weapon fired exactly as designed. But there was a flaw in the architecture, and it was fatal. Every single day Iran kept Hormuz restricted was another day Washington could tell the world that the strait was already dead, that commercial shipping had already collapsed, that Iran itself was the living proof Hormuz could not function under Tehran's control. And so the United States did not beg Iran to reopen the strait. It expanded. Gulf of Oman, Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal, Indo-Pacific. The blockade metastasized from one choke point to every ocean lane that touched Iranian trade. And the spiral became irreversible. Iran restricts Hormuz, shipping collapses. Washington uses the collapse to launch a global blockade. Iran's exports begin to choke, so Iran tightens Hormuz further. Every escalation gives Washington another reason to squeeze, and every day Iran grips tighter, it bleeds faster. The weapon became the cage. BIMCO, the world's largest shipping association, said it plainly. Companies will not return to Hormuz without stable guarantees from both sides. But Iran cannot offer guarantees to anyone, because Iran is the one under siege. The White House claims Iran is losing $500 million a day. Whether the number is exact or not, the direction is undeniable. Iran's maritime trade is being strangled by the same logic Iran used to strangle the world's. The Strait of Hormuz did not give Iran power over global energy. It gave the world a reason to build a prison around Iran. For decades, Iran advertised Hormuz as the final switch, the one lever that could terrify the entire world into listening. The threat that no sanctions package, no carrier group, no coalition could neutralize. In 2026, that lever finally moved, and it did not open a door for Iran, it closed one. 140 ships a day, now 5. If Iran reopens Hormuz tomorrow, the damage is permanent. Shipping companies have already priced in the risk. South Korea has restarted nuclear reactors. Vietnam just scrapped a 4.8 gigawatt gas project. LNG contracts are being torn up and rewritten around routes that bypass the Gulf entirely. The world is not waiting for Iran to unlock the gate. The world is building new roads that do not pass through Iran's territory. But if Iran keeps the strait shut, the blockade tightens, the economy bleeds, and Tehran proves Washington's case for them. That Iran was never the guardian of Hormuz. Iran was the threat. So, did Iran just demonstrate its power over global energy, or did it hand the United States the greatest strategic gift since the end of the Cold War? Pick a side, drop it in the comments, and subscribe because the blockade is still tightening and Hormuz is not done bleeding yet.